When it comes to animals, nature is the mother of invention. After the extinction of the dinosaurs, life experimented with some weird and wonderful combinations and produced a variety of terrifying monsters. Nowhere more so than 30 million years ago in the Valley of the Uglies. 65 million years ago, the dinosaurs met their doom. No place on Earth reveals more about what happened next than the White River Badlands that cover much of the Great Plains of North America, from South Dakota into Colorado and Nebraska. Today, the White River Badlands have eroded away to reveal the secrets of a great evolutionary experiment in which a bizarre group of creatures fought and died for domination over the land. The story begins in 1870 with the arrival of General George Armstrong Custer. The Badlands were an area Custer knew well. 6 years before his ill-fated encounter at the Little Bighorn River, he led the 7th Cavalry on an expedition to explore and map western North America, still an unknown frontier. Although a soldier at heart, he took a keen personal interest in the countless fossils of extinct animals that littered the landscape. Eventually, his finds were packed up in rifle chests and shipped to the Peabody Museum at Yale University. Little did Custer realize that those boxes contained relics of a conflict 1,000 times more ferocious than any he would ever witness. The death of the world's most awesome predators, the dinosaurs, had left a vacuum. For the next 40 million years after their extinction, a host of bizarre new killers vied to take their place. Bloodthirsty birds, ravenous reptiles, murderous mammals, slashing saber-toothed cats. Paleontologist Bob Bacher sets the scene for the opening round.
Okay, the dinosaurs are extinct. The top predator role is up for grabs. There are a bunch of contenders. The furry mammals are there, but there are other guys too. They're giant ground birds. Very early in the history of mammals, there evolved huge, half-ton, flightless birds, running, killing. They had bodies like these chaps, cassowaries, but much bigger, up to a half-ton. And their heads were huge, eagle-shaped heads the size of a racehorse, 3 feet long. These weren't terrible lizards, they were terrible turkeys. They could run you down, and they could chew you up.
Called Diatryma, the terror crane, it was 8 feet tall and so lethal it didn't need to fly. But it ruled the roost for only a few million years. Its rival was a reptile called a panzerkroch. All it needed to be the top predator were long legs for running and teeth for cutting meat. But fierce though it was, panzerkrochs were not geographically widespread and also made a quick exit.
Panzerkrochs are splendid, but they are minority predators. Most of the predators in the age of mammals come from a different ancestor. Something that started as a little fur ball, no bigger than a mouse. But inside its jaws were special self-sharpening shears. Worked like scissors, like bolt cutters. And from this little fur ball would come bigger and bigger animals who used their shears for chopping through flesh and chopping through tendon and chopping through bone. These became lions and tigers and bears and a whole wonderful world of flesh eaters.
It took millions of years for the mammals to rise above their competitors. And along the way, they tried out some of the strangest designs ever. The evidence is scattered throughout the White River Badlands. Paleontologist Japhet Boyce has been hooked on the prehistoric battles of the Badlands since his father took him fossil hunting when he was barely knee-high to a terror crane. Today, he knows the area like the back of his hand. Boyce is particularly fascinated by the White River Badlands because they contain some of the best bone beds in the world. Bone beds that contain mammals.
Mammals are very interesting, much more compelling than the dinosaurs because we are mammals. And the more we can learn about mammals, the more we can learn about ourselves.
Recently, a team of 6 recovered the jaws of nearly 1,000 rhinoceroses from a 1 square mile outcrop on a single day. The prolific bone beds of the White River Badlands tell a grim story of how the mammals triumphed over their rivals to become top dogs in the Valley of the Uglies. The Valley of the Uglies was not always silent and desolate. When the dinosaurs lived here, it was a tropical forest. But after they disappeared, the climate became cooler and drier, and the lush vegetation gave way to more open prairie. Onto this stage came a new cast of ugly characters. The first to stalk the Badlands was an experiment in terror. Paleontologists have unearthed a mammal with a snout that bears a striking resemblance to a crocodile's.
This guy could snap this long snout shut with great speed, penetrating, slicing, cracking. This is Hyaenodon horridus. When it snapped its jaws down, it could reduce a plant eater into pulp.
Hyaenodon horridus, one of the most vicious predators of its day. If you take a Panzerkrog's head and give it a Rottweiler's body, a hyena's cunning and viciousness, you get a bone cruncher with brains and speed.
The Hyaenodon was fleet-footed. He ran on his toes. Animals that run on their toes are very rapid, and the Hyaenodon did this. He ran like greased lightning through the Badlands.
Hyaenodon was not only fast, but highly developed in other ways, as Japhet Boyce discovered when he subjected a skull to modern medical imaging. A 30-million-year-old fossil meets 20th century technology. From these scans, Boyce has been able to accurately reconstruct the workings of the ancient assassin's sensory mechanisms. He's particularly interested in how Hyaenodon compares to today's top predator, the lion. Using the lion's skull as a benchmark, he can measure the size of its olfactory bulb to determine the animal's sense of smell, and the size of its optic nerve to indicate its sensitivity to light.
Now, these are the olfactory bulbs here, aren't they?
The olfactory bulbs in the Hyaenodon are exceptionally large when compared to those of the lion. A predator's most important sense is the sense of smell. And in the Hyaenodon, it is even better developed than Boyce had ever imagined. And the opening where the optic nerves go in is also extremely large in the Hyaenodon compared to the lion.
we know
Lions hunt at night and have tremendous night vision, so Boyce and the doctor agree that Hyaenodon must have had superb night vision as well. Modern-day hyenas also feed at night. Their jaws exert a pressure of over 700 pounds per square inch. Hyaenodon horridus was even bigger and better equipped. With its large teeth, it could crush the neck of any creature its size, rip the hide off an alligator, and neatly fillet a small animal in minutes. But Hyaenodon was not the only predator haunting the Badlands. Its rival was a very weird cat.
Now, cats had the same problem Hyaenodons did. How are you going to kill something really big? What cats did was go abnormal. This is a normal cat, mountain lion. Massive killing teeth for holding onto your throat until you asphyxiate, and strong jaw muscles. The saber-toothed cats of the Badlands did it differently. They have huge upper teeth, very sharp for slashing, weak jaw muscles, but they can open their mouth really wide and slash with their whole body and neck. If you're a cat like that, you can kill something 10 times as big as you are.
A saber-tooth attacked its prey by stabbing at the neck to sever the windpipe or blood vessels. But when it came to a showdown with Hyaenodon, Japhet Boyce has found spectacular evidence of who came out on top.
Well, I was working on this big cat one night, and I got to thinking that these puncture marks in the skull started looking familiar. So I got a Hyaenodon skull and placed it in here, and behold, they fit almost perfectly in the top of this skull.
A cat was no match for a super snapper with a bad attitude and a big appetite. But the tables were about to be turned. Hyaenodon's worst nightmare was lurking in the wings. In the Valley of the Uglies, this beast was a ton of sheer horror. Bob Bacher thinks it was one of the fiercest predators that ever existed.
I'm talking about a meat eater that evolved from an omnivore, from a pig-like animal. I'm talking about the killer warthogs. This is Megacorus, with a huge bony wart below the eye. It had canine teeth, killing teeth bigger than a polar bear's, and jaws set so they could open to a right angle and snap down really quickly. Nothing ever has evolved as scary with fur as the killer warthogs. Archaeotherium, Megacorus, Dinohyus, killer warthogs, all.
For Hyaenodon, a killer pig was a bad dream come true. A truly awesome predator, Dinohyus had a massive skull, not much smaller than the skull of a Tyrannosaurus rex. Killer hogs feasted on these miniature gazelle-like creatures, ancestors of the modern camel, but they were no cowards when it came to attacking larger beasts. A longtime observer of the Badlands, curator of the Denver Museum Richard Stuckey, noticed a shift in the battle lines.
As the climate changed in North America, so did the habitats. Tropical forests changed to savanna-like environments. In those open environments, animals evolved. They changed to avoid predators. They got very, very big.
Towering over all other mammals were the thunder beasts, as big and bad and ugly as they come. Called brontotheres, they lived on the leaves and twigs of the forest.
Not only did some of these animals get very big, but some became very swift runners. Others developed herd groups, like camels and rhinoceroses. Some, like the brontotheres, evolved large horns and evolved differences between the males and females. The males became larger to protect the groups of animals that lived out in these open areas.
Fossils from the Valley of the Uglies reveal that size doesn't always equate with survival. Japhet Boyce has discovered a graveyard where, 20 million years ago, during the Oligocene period, a herd of thunder beasts died by the thousands.
This is a mass mortality of brontotheres sitting on top of this fossil stream bed, the ancient stream bed that flowed through the Badlands here. Imagine a huge migrating herd of brontotheres coming to a swollen flood stage river. River much like this modern river that mimics the fossil river which flowed through these Oligocene Badlands. The brontotheres come to this swollen stream, attempt to cross it, are caught in the flood, swept downstream, whirled into an eddy where they create a logjam of carcasses.
The same fate that awaits these modern wildebeest crossing the Mara River in East Africa. Today, the disaster that swept through the Badlands 20 million years ago is frozen in time. The bones of the brontotheres preserved in exquisite detail. Slipping outside was dangerous in White River times. Above ground, there was a veritable blitzkrieg of predators. Super snappers, hyenodons, saber-tooths.
How can you escape if you don't want to be gigantic? What if you want to be the size of a sheep? There is a way. What you can do is dig. Dig your own bomb shelter. Get away from the Blitz the way the Londoners did during the Second World War. And the most common group of White River herbivores did exactly that, the Oreodons. They went underground.
The clash of the predators and their dying prey were not the only sounds to shatter the calm of the Valley of the Uglies, as paleontologist Kent Sundell has recently discovered.
Today, these badlands are home to primarily a grazing community of animals. But 30 million years ago, the sounds echoed of digging and scratching of burrowing mammals. In fact, 3/4 of all the mammals that lived in this area were burrowers at that time.
Today, the burrowers are prairie dogs, but 30 million years ago, their predecessors were considerably bigger. The Oreodonts were the most common, ranging in size from a small dog to a large sheep. Scientists long thought they were grazers that migrated in large herds across the newly emerging grasslands. But recently, Kent Sundell literally turned the world of Oreodont studies upside down.
The kind of thing I'm looking for are these burrow-shaped nodules like this one right here.
Nodules of mud that filled the Oreodont dens.
And sometimes when we pop them open, we'll find the skeleton of an Oreodont.
Nearby, Kent uncovered a whole family of burrowing Oreodonts along with a few surprises. A large male, a juvenile, and a female with fetuses intact in her belly. Prairie dog colonies today mimic the life of the Oreodonts 30 million years ago. They lived in family groups and kept guard to watch each other's backs.
Not only did these Oreodonts live in family groups in burrows such as this, but I've also found more than 30 different family groups in close proximity to each other in burrows. That indicates to me that these Oreodonts lived much more a lifestyle like the modern prairie dog of today. So as a predator attacks, the Oreodont male will back down into his hole, and defending his young, he'll bare his teeth, trying to fend off the attack of the hyenodons and the killer pigs.
The bones of hyenodon have been found together with several Oreodont skeletons, suggesting a burrow must have collapsed during the attack, burying both predator and prey. But Japheth Boyce made an even more intriguing find.
I've got a skull of an oreodont that's been bitten twice by a hyenodon, and you can see how it bit here, and it crushed the skull, not only crushing the skull, but it would eat it.
Hyenodon must have wolfed the oreodont down in an eating frenzy. Boyce has found the fossilized dung that he calls scat to prove it.
I find scat from a hyenodon that has bones from the skull inside of it. And not just bones. I find scat that has teeth.
As the sun set over the Badlands 30 million years ago, the night hunters were just setting out on a bloodthirsty night's work.
Better be going. Not the kind of place to be with the night terminator around.
Hyenodons, saber-toothed cats, and killer pigs have long vanished to be replaced by a new generation of specialized killers. But Bob Barker thinks something's missing.
What's missing is something this big, with a long snout, whack, 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 that can chase down rhinos and elephants and kill them and rip them apart. So let's make the present unweird. Let's make the present like the past. Let's take a polar bear. Let's give it long legs so it can run after elephants and rhinos. Let's give it a super snapping head. Let's take the head of, say, a hippo. It's going to open real wide. Put them in Africa. Let them hunt in packs. Now you've got the present back the way it should be. Now you've got the present like the past. Now you've got a super, snapping, giant, fast-running, pack-hunting killer.
By swapping body parts, modifying old designs and experimenting with new ones, the battle over who would succeed the dinosaurs was finally won. Today, on every continent, the top dog is a mammal. But nowhere on Earth was the journey more bizarre than in the Valley of the Uglies.